with another sketchbook exercise, and today we're going to be using just a few colors. It seems like I have a lot of materials here, but really I don't. I have a couple of paintbrushes, a squared off one and a round one, a white paint, a couple of warm colors, both in yellows, ochre yellow and Hansa yellow, and then a cobalt turquoise, a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen in fine tip, a colored pencil, I just arbitrarily picked this out of my jar, and a regular graphite pencil, and a brayer. And we're going to really focus on pattern and repetition. Pattern and repetition is a great element to use in art because it gives the eye something to focus on and creates interest, and for me it's a lot of joy. I love creating similar patterns, similar marks, using them over and over. I have a little sample here. They don't have to be clean. I did this with some ink, and it was just a matter of just making the same marks over and over, and some of them were a little wetter, some of them were drier. This is just a fun exercise, and we're going to do it with a little bit of paint here. And I have the brayer to roll the paint on. If you don't have a brayer, you can use a paintbrush, not that big a deal. The goal here is to just start and put some paint down. I'm going to make blocks of color just to get my page going and to give myself some fields to make pattern in. I'm also going to talk about a little bit of technique when it comes to putting paint on the paper. So this right here, what I just did was dry paper, it was straight up paint, and now I'm going to do a wet technique where I'm going to wet the paper, and since I'm using fluid acrylic, it's going to react a little bit differently than the dry. So I'm making a block of water. We're going to put the bright yellow down. So I don't know if you can see that, but right there it spread that paint a little bit. Then we're going to roll it into the wet and let it overlap a little bit here. And that just glided on because of the wet. Helped it smooth out. I have a nice texture going here because there was a little bit of blue I picked up from my brayer and a little bit of blue I picked up since these are fluid acrylics. And remember, this is just play, so I just decided because I had extra paint on my brayer to just throw another yellow bar up top. And I'm going to do dry paper again here. And this gives me various texture on my page as well. So you can see using the dry technique and the wet technique, the paint reacted to the paper differently, soaked into the fiber differently, and it gives me a different look. So I'm going to go just a tad bit of blue. Alright, so there's the background of my page, and I always, I have a bunch of little scraps of paper up here, and what I do with these, I play with them, I do technique and color on them, I test mediums on them, and I also use them to roll off my brayers and everything else. And then once these are good and covered in mediums, I use them as extra fodder for my art journaling. So a little bonus tip there. Those are scraps, you know, when I hand-make books and hand-make things or cut down paper sizes, I just keep all the little scraps for test sheets and also for source material. So I am going to put a little bit of white over this as well. I'm going to do it right here. Again, we're just playing, so it's kind of arbitrary. I just decided that I liked the idea of putting a little bit of lighter white where these two colors met. So I reactivated that yellow because it is a fluid acrylic. That's okay. This is how you play and learn your materials, learn techniques you like, and explore. So now we are ready. Roll that off. I have a piece of cardboard over here. I'm rolling it on to clean off that brayer. Now I'm going to dry it real quick. My dryer is way far over there, so it does need to be dried though. Now that we have our background colors, I'm going to go in and start making marks. And our goal here is to do repetition. So it can be any form of repetition. I am really drawn to circles, so I'm going to start with some of those. Some ovals that I go over a couple times. And this is really about playing with marks. So lines are always a lot of fun. And exploring different marks on color, different ways of making marks, different ways to use your tools when making patterns. And when you're thinking about repetition and exploring the idea of repetition, patterns can mean multiple things. So this right here can be a pattern, but we have this whole big page here, so I am repeating these same 4 lines of dashes here, here, and I'm going to put some up here as well. And the reason I'm doing this is because it helps draw the eye to the patterned lines. And I'm putting them in 3 different places on the page, so your eye bounces here. My pencil is really light, and so you see it a little bit, but not that much. So we're gonna color these in with this tricolor pencil and just bring a little more attention to them. And I'm not perfectly coloring them, I'm just filling the previous shape. And now, I might want to go in here and add some scribble. The interesting thing about scribble is it can start to feel like repetition, but it's almost haphazard. Unless you're really methodical about the way you scribble, the scribble takes on a little life of its own, which I really enjoy. We're going to go back to this wet white paint with a square brush. I'm going to load up the corner, the side of my brush like that. And this is one of my favorite marks to make. I use it a lot in my work. And you find marks by exploring your own materials, your own brushes, your own mediums, and just what you're drawn to. I like this mark because it feels both chaotic and ordered. It's like you can't control the preciseness of the mark, but it feels consistent enough to be a strong pattern. And you just want to play. I like the way that when I stamp with the side of the brush, sometimes you get a really broken down look, like here. Sometimes you get a really full look, like where I started. And you can use this same brush to make really broken down kind of dash marks as well. And then I'm going to use the round brush. Maybe open this. I did a little spilling here, and just dip it. I'm going to go back over this white with some little dots. I'm going to make it a little more sporadic. And then since I have paint on this, I never want to waste paint. So I'm going to roll it back and forth here. Oh, I picked up some of that white. That's okay. And just see how it sort of breaks down that color. And there we go. So explore repetition, pattern, and marks today. Put on a base layer of color and then use your different mark making tools. You can pick the same ones I did. You can pick whatever you have in your little pen jar or your cup on your table and just explore and play. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed my sketchbook practice, and I'll see you back here next time. Thanks. Bye.